Hello, hello. Welcome back. I must begin with a quick apology. We are one day late. I had a minor interruption in my week this week. However, that means that we're going to do 2 chapters back to back today and tomorrow to get caught up with No Coins, Please. Now, we presently where are we? Right, this is chapter 9. So we left off the Denver Twist, which was, of course, the very swanky discotheque, which I'm pretty sure is not even still a word, but whatever. Yes, where, of course, as usual, Artie made fistfuls of money, and Dennis and Rob kind of didn't really have any other choice but to just hang out. So, we move on to now, chapter 9, A Little Difference of Opinion. Roll 11, exposures 1 through 36, The Pretzel. Artie had neglected to mention that closing time for The Pretzel was 4 in the morning, and that it would take 40 minutes to clear the building, and almost 2,800 of the almost 2,800 guests who had come to the grand opening. Many of the celebrity guests had stayed behind to thank and congratulate their host. Artie had sent out 250 VIP invitations, and more than 100 of the famous personalities had actually attended, a surprisingly good percentage. It took another 2 hours to settle with the bar and food people and to pay his staff their remaining salary, plus large bonuses for their dedication. He even included in their pay envelopes letters of recommendation to their next employers. They were signed A, The Pretzel, Denver. It was an emotional farewell scene between Artie and his faithful staff. Miss Finch sobbed uncontrollably, and even Big Joe had a little misty-eyed. Sheldon, too, was obviously deeply affected, the scene calling up memories of the departure of Pete Ogrodnik, so he began to sniffle as well. Artie shook hands with all of them and headed for the door. He turned, surveyed the room critically, and said, "I like it," and was gone. Ambulance group drove straight to Interstate 25, heading for Albuquerque or bust. Dennis, who was at the wheel, had promised a super express nonstop trip, hopefully making Albuquerque in 7.5 hours. The group was strangely silent for the first half hour. Then Rob turned around in his seat and glared at Artie threateningly. "You know, if I hadn't had the greatest time in my life last night, I'd be in the process of killing you right now." "I'm glad you enjoyed it," said Artie mildly. "But when Butcher blows his stack at us for being late, I'm going to give you to him, Artie, on a silver platter. How does that grab you?" Artie said nothing. "That was one beautiful disco you put together, Artie," Dennis called back. "Thanks for showing us such a good time." All at once, conversation swelled in the back seat. "I met a real basketball star. He was 7'4". "I saw 2 astronauts. 2. Kevin won the 7-Up races." Kevin threw up in the washroom. "Did you see Rob dancing with Belinda Egan?" Rob smiled. Young Belinda, star of such films as A Parisian in Cripple Creek and Sequin Sneakers, had been the highlight of his evening. His status as a personal guest of A had brought him up to her level. "Artie, how did you do it?" Artie shrugged. "Oh, a little of this and that." "Yeah, well, a little of this and that certainly made you a few bucks," said Rob. "You're not going to tell me that those 2 big cartons of money contain nothing much, and those aren't just ones in there. They're 10s and 20s and 50s. I'm starting to get nervous driving around you in your treasury. We shouldn't be in a van. We should be driving a Brinks truck." Artie's accounting of the situation was still crude at this point, leaving him within $200 of bankruptcy. Oh, sorry, Artie's accounting of the situation was still crude at this point. The cost of the disco had drained his resources, leaving him within $200 of bankruptcy. But the pretzel had brought him approximately $60,000. His briefcase, then, held only his tuxedo, and his fortune lay in the 2 corrugated cardboard boxes on which he rested his feet. A bank in Albuquerque would have the privilege of converting it into an array of bills that would fit into the case. In blistering heat, the ambulance pulled into the campground late Saturday afternoon. Following Rob's plan, the group disembarked and immediately set about establishing the lived-in look about their campsite. Butcher apprehended them in the act. He drove up, screeched to a halt, and lumbered over. Rage, fury, and disbelief wafted across his contorted features in shades of red and purple. Dennis and Rob prepared themselves for an onslaught of yelling hitherto undreamt of. "Gee," announced Howie loudly, "we sure have been at this trailer camp a long time." "All right, I'm going to remain calm, cool, and collected, while you 2 Canadian ambulance guys tell me where you've been." "We were in Denver," Dennis said weakly. It really is a fascinating city. Makes you forget the time." "Don't give me that," growled Butcher. "I want to know why you're late, and I want to know now." This is it, thought Rob, the moment of truth. He would denounce Artie as the culprit and tell Butcher everything. The pretzel, the milk store, the Capitol Hill Speedway, and attack jelly. This time, Butcher would have to listen, and Artie would be sent home as he deserved. Yes, Rob decided, he would do this for the good of everybody. He was about to do it. In just a second, he would do it. The words were all ready. He opened his mouth. "Mr. Butcher, the fact is we liked Denver. And the kids liked Denver, and we stayed a bit late. And we caught up with the tour," Dennis added, "so no one will ever know the difference." "Yes, someone will know the difference. Try the Colorado State Police and the New Mexico State Police. They know the difference already. They're looking for you right now. What have you got to say to that?" "You better tell them you found us," said Sam. With much effort, Butcher forced the corners of his mouth up in an absurd smile. "Sorry, guys. This is between your counselors and me." He turned back to Dennis and Rob. "In America, when you're on a tour, you follow a schedule. When you go wherever you feel like, that's not a tour anymore. Got it?" They nodded dumbly. "Now, I've never fired a counselor before, but if I hear one more tiny peep out of this group, the slightest mishap, if you're half an hour late, you're gone." They nodded again. "I want you to know right now that my report on you is going to say that you are 2 of the most irresponsible people I ever met in my life." He stalked off, jumped into his car, and pulled away. As the roar of the engine grew fainter, a new sound reached their ears. The steady laughter of Byron and the road hogs. Dennis shot him a nasty look, and he walked away, still laughing. Rob suggested a nap for what remained of the afternoon, but the day was hot and uncomfortable, and a dip in the pool seemed a more popular idea. Only Artie opted for the nap, though his purpose probably was to remain close to his 2 cartons of money. Rob went with the others to the pool, but did not change into his swimsuit, preferring to lounge in a deck chair and try to doze off. Sleep, however, would not come. He found his mind wandering to the latest run-in with Butcher, and his own failure to put the blame on Artie. The road hogs were at the pool too, he noticed, without interest. Dennis sent Sheldon to the van for some extra towels. The boy disappeared for a moment, then came running back with an armful, jogging past the Roadhog's campers. Nonchalantly, one of them stuck out a foot. Sheldon tripped and fell heavily to the ground. "Hey, Sam rose out of the water like a Polaris missile. He singled out the offender and dealt him a punch to the face and then one to the chest. The other roadhogs grabbed him, but he shook his arms free. "Mark, are you all right?" Byron and Daryl jogged onto the scene, and Daryl grabbed Sam by the shoulders. "Hey, ambulance," he called. "Your little twit's getting too big for his pants. Here, take him." He shoved Sam away, sending him sprawling to the concrete apron of the pool. "Why, you miserable..." His face flaming bright red, Dennis scrambled out of the water and headed for the roadhogs with murder in his eye. Rob, who had been attending to Sam, ran up and grabbed his partner less than a yard away from Daryl. "Dennis, control yourself. We don't want any trouble here." "We don't want any trouble here," mimicked Byron in a mocking falsetto. Dennis struggled hard to break free of Rob. "If you want to hit someone to make yourself feel like a big man, you can hit me. But you hit one of my kids, now you're going to die for it." "Well, that's big talk," Daryl sneered. "Where's your little weirdo?" Byron added. Rob turned his attention from Dennis. "Or what?" "Yeah, that weird kid you've got, the wimpy one who carries the briefcase." Byron saw the look on Rob's face and dug harder. "You know, the freak." There was a moment of total silence. Then Rob, the peacemaker, let go of Dennis, took a powerful step forward, and swung mightily. Artie woke up from a light sleep to hear chatter of his ambulance mates coming back from the pool. In through the tent flap staggered 7 valiant fighters, battle-scarred with bruises and assorted scrapes and cuts. "What happened?" Artie asked. Dennis grinned through rapidly swelling lips. "A little difference of opinion with the roadhogs." "We showed them we've got guts," yelled Sam, waving a fist. "Yeah, that's because they scattered them all over the pool," gasped Rob, rubbing his jaw. Did we win?" asked Sheldon. "Morally, yes," said Dennis. "What does that mean?" asked Howie, examining a scraped knee. "It means we got pummeled," said Rob. "Dennis, get the first aid kit. I hope there's enough iodine to go around." "Well, they killed us," mourned Kevin. "Ha," said Sam. "They looked pretty beat up, too." "Their fists will be sore anyway," said Rob, dabbing at Nick's elbow with a handkerchief. "It's too bad you weren't there, Artie," said Sam. "That would have evened things up. We were outnumbered." "Did they attack you?" asked Artie in concern. No," said Dennis. "They were being a pain in the neck as usual, insulting our group. So Rob hit one of them." "That was his first good decision," said Sam positively. "What a punch! Knocked him right into the pool." "I was proud of you, Nevin," said Dennis. "Sticking up for the guys like that, it was beautiful." "It was stupid. I darn near got us all killed." "It was great. You knocked Byron clear into the next county." "And all this time I thought the ugly one was Daryl," said Rob. "Pass the bandages, please. Sheldon, does that hurt?" And this was the roadhogs," said Artie. Those big guys, brown van." "The very same," said Rob. "Well, maybe we didn't win technically," said Sam, "but we sure proved them that they can be hit." "We also proved that they can hit back," said Rob. "Dennis, you're going to need some ice on that." We were winners in the end," Dennis insisted. "We came out of it with self-respect." "Well, I sure hope we've got enough self-respect to last the rest of the tour," said Rob. "I don't think I could go through that again." "Okay, team," said Dennis cheerfully, his words somewhat slurred from the smelling in his mouth. "We upheld our honor on the field of battle, and now it's our time for our next adventure, the Grand Canyon." "I hope the roadhogs fall in," said Sheldon. But they provoked you, right?" said Artie with interest. "Oh yeah," said Sam. "They were looking for a fight, and we gave it to them." "And they gave it right back to us," said Rob. "And if we don't arrive at the Grand Canyon on time, we're going to get it from another unpleasant source." "Whoa. Artie, just what do you think you're doing?" "Nothing," said Artie, stepping into his tuxedo pants. Don't give me that, said Rob. Every time you put on that monkey suit, you disappear somewhere, and suddenly, halfway across town, a thriving business whooshes into being. Where are you going? No place. Artie, I'm not stupid. Artie crawled out of the tent and stood for a moment brushing off his tuxedo and drawing on his immaculate white gloves. I'm not leaving the camp, he promised. I won't be gone more than about 20 minutes. Wait here for me. He marched off. Dennis, Rob, and the 5 campers scrambled out of the tent and anxiously watched Artie's progress across the campground. Oh my God, breathed Rob. He's going to the Roadhogs. Oh no, cried Dennis. What does he think he can do to them? They'll kill him. Okay, Sam exclaimed, slamming his fists into his palm. Let's get over there and back him up. Don't anybody move, commanded Rob. If Artie needs rescuing, Dennis and I will do it. The group watched in trepidation as Artie tapped on the Roadhog's tent flap and entered. Total silence fell. Even Sheldon had no parallel experience in the life of Peter Grodnick to relate. The 7 stood frozen, eyes riveted on the Roadhog's tent. 15 minutes passed, and Dennis could stand it no longer. Nevin, we've got to do something. That's our kid in there. Who knows what they're doing to him? Rob frowned. I figured he'd come sailing out after 5 seconds. What are they doing in there? Finally, the tent flap lifted, and Byron and Daryl both hurried out. Byron held the flap open for Artie, who emerged dapper as ever, smiling broadly. The 2 Roadhogs shook hands with the boy. Daryl straightened Artie's tie, patted him affectionately on the shoulder, and Artie started back across the compound. Spying ambulance group watching spellbound, Byron waved in a friendly way, calling, Hey guys, see you at the Grand Canyon. Mouth open, Dennis waved back feebly. Rob reached out and grasped the returning Artie by his satin lapels. Are you all right? Sure. Dennis turned wide eyes on his charge. What happened in there? Nothing. It was Rob's turn to drive, and the group left 45 minutes early, just to be on the safe side. The topic of conversation in the van was Artie's visit to the Roadhogs. Artie, who had converted his bulky fortune into large bills before leaving Albuquerque, took on his usual pose, sitting with his attaché case in his lap, dodging and avoiding all direct questions as to exactly what had taken place in the Roadhog's tent. I still can't believe it, Rob was saying. I figured they were going to send you back in a shoebox. Now they're being nice and polite and friendly. Come on, Artie, just this once, tell us what you did. Nothing. We just had a discussion. You didn't pay them off, did you? Oh, no, of course not. He couldn't have, added Nick. His money was still in the ambulance. Well then, you threatened them? Rob persisted. Artie shrugged. How could I? At Thoreau, Arizona, they crossed the Continental Divide. Kevin, whose artistic mind had been imagining great rivers separating east and west, had to content himself with a few snapshots of the wind-blown sign which read, You are now crossing the Great Divide, to which someone had added in purple lipstick, Big deal. It's lousy, announced Sam, and there was total agreement. The tour book calls it a geological wonder, said Rob. Yeah, snorted Dennis. Like I wonder where it is. Let's get going. To Rob's great relief, they arrived at the Grand Canyon in mid-evening. They were greeted by the campground by the Roadhogs, who had made popcorn and insisted on sharing. Ambulance group provided the toast. Rolls 12 to 14, exposures 1 to 36. The Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon was everything Kevin and camera could want. Armed with 3 rolls of film and various lenses, he set out to capture all aspects of one of the world's great spectacles. Sam was disgusted when he was informed that he was not old enough to venture into the canyon on muleback. Since his original desire had been to shoot the rapids of the Colorado River, he felt that being denied the mule trip, his second choice, was the ultimate indignity. "I can't believe this," he muttered after his attempt to pass himself off as 13 had been repulsed by an annoyed tour guide. "It just goes to show you, you drive far enough away from the Statue of Liberty and they forget what it means. What is this? You're not a person until you're 12? Sheldon was happy for the same reason that Sam was miserable. He had accepted Sam's triple dare to take the mule trip and had intended to go through with it, even if it killed him, which he was certain it would. Now he looked at his surroundings with the eyes of a man given a new lease on life. Dennis was sure he was in paradise, for every 3 steps brought him to another Indian artifact to buy. On his head he wore the full feathered headdress from Ohio, and to this he added excuse me. And to this he added a Hopi Indian blanket, which he hung from his belt, and Indian moccasins. His hands were covered in native rings, and he carried a bag which contained an assortment of Grand Canyon pennants, paperweights, ashtrays, posters, and other paraphernalia. "Dennis, where are you getting all that money?" Rob asked suspiciously, as Dennis pulled out a $20 bill and began to gaze intently at a miniature totem pole. "You've been broke since Columbus." Dennis flushed. "I've been meaning to tell you, Rob, because some of this is yours. Artie paid me back all the money we spent on him when we thought he was broke." "Oh, yeah? I didn't realize we had loaned him that much." Well, we didn't. He also gave us sort of a bonus." Rob was appalled. "That's corruption. It's hush money. It's a payoff so we won't tell what he's been up to. And you took it?" "Well, I mean, we did kind of help him out with the cows and..." "Give me that," Rob snatched the bill out of Dennis's hand. "It goes right back to Artie. It's dirty money, and we don't want anything to do with it." "Oh, Rob, I wonder what Butcher would say if he found out one of his own counselors was on the take." "Dennis, you're a worm." The group returned to camp for dinner to find the ambulance gleaming white and Byron and Daryl putting the finishing touches on the chrome with polishing cloths. "Oh, hey, we were just washing our van, and since you're parked right next to us, we figured we'd do yours too," explained Daryl. "It's nothing really. It didn't really take that long." Thanks, guys," said Dennis weakly. "Thanks a lot?" After supper, all the group stopped by the canyon for a final look before moving on. Dozens of counselors and campers strolled over to the rim to gaze out at the breathtaking panorama. Rob was pondering the millions of years of Earth's history laid out before him, but all the secrets that lay hidden in those rock strata were as insignificant as the trail of a worm through dry sand when compared to the secret of what Artie had said or done to the roadhogs that afternoon in Albuquerque. And, he thought with a shudder, if the roadhogs didn't frighten Artie, how could he and Dennis ever expect to control him? Agent Frank Newman of the FBI was seated at his desk pondering a recent diamond smuggling case when his assistant, Agent Tim O'Reilly, burst into the room. "Frank, I think I've got something." Newman sat forward in his chair. "Good. These smugglers are really starting to get me down." No, not that. I'm talking about the kid in the tuxedo thing." "Oh." In Newman's opinion, that case was the least important of their assignments. "All right, what is it?" "Remember the big disco in Denver on Friday night? That was another one, complete even with the little kid in the tuxedo and everything. He called himself A." "Yeah, but wasn't the pretzel a legitimate operation?" O'Reilly shook his head. "No licenses, no permits. And the morning after, no pretzel. They shut the whole thing down and flew the coop. Not only that, but the building they used belongs to Twister Pretzel, and they don't know anything about the disco. Anyway, we guessed the probable routes between Washington and Denver and came up with an incident at this big state park in Nebraska, something called a no-frills milk store. Some kid in a tuxedo was charging people $1 a minute to milk a cow." Newman whistled. And people were paying it? Honestly, Frank, the public doesn't deserve our protection. But anyway, he rented the cows from this nearby farmer and, like before, no license, no permit, no nothing. He ran the place for 3 days, made about $4,000, and took off. O'Reilly spread out a map on the desk. Now, we've marked all the spots he's hit. There's a tack jelly in New York, the gambling thing on Capitol Hill, the milk thing in Nebraska, and the pretzel in Denver. Newman looked at the map. This looks like one of those See America tours. That's what I thought, said O'Reilly. And there's one tour taking that exact route, hitting on the right days. Junior tours. Newman frowned. Yeah, I've heard of them, but that's kids. Right, and we're looking for a little kid in a tuxedo. A slow smile appeared on Newman's face. I get it. Some crook figured that kids would never fall under suspicion. So he's using Junior Tour's kids to work his scams for him. Man, must be some weird guy considering the kinds of schemes he's pulling off. But Junior Tours fields a lot of groups. How do we know which one will lead us to our man? O'Reilly grinned. Well, Junior Tours reported a van missing right after the tour left Denver and the pretzel opened. It's probably the one we want. I've got a description from the New Mexico State Police, their group ambulance or something like that. Newman looked pleased. Nice work. What's the tour schedule right now? According to the itinerary, they're coming from the Grand Canyon and they'll be in Vegas for the next couple of days. Newman stood up. Okay, we're going to Vegas. The campers had all fallen asleep, but the white van with Rob at the wheel was still headed west on Interstate 14. You know, it's funny, Rob was saying. When I was 11 and I got beat up, my 18-year-old brother would come and bail me out. Now, I'm 18, and an 11-year-old is working things out for me. I'd give anything to know how he did it. I told you, Nevin, Dennis robbed. I told you, Nevin, Dennis yawned. They're a great bunch of kids. Rob shook his head. I can't believe Artie. He's awful. And yet, he has so much style. Well, I'm glad to see you finally decided to like Artie. Wait a minute, Rob protested. I never said I liked him. I mean, I like him. With reservations. A sign loomed up on the right. Welcome to Nevada, the Silver State. Suddenly, Rob slammed on the brakes, and the van screeched to a stop in the last few yards of New Mexico. What's going on? Asked Dennis. Rob pointed to the sign, identifying the state line. So, we're entering Nevada. We're entering Nevada with Artie, Rob corrected. This is the money state, Dennis. We can't take that kid to Las Vegas. The whole city is pure money. Dennis looked disgusted. Nevin, I thought you said you trusted Artie. I said I liked him with reservations, and this is one of the reservations. We'll go around Nevada. Don't be an idiot. If we don't check in at Las Vegas, we're both fired. Now get moving. You don't stop dead in the middle of an interstate. And just leave Artie to me. He can't gamble under the age of 21 anyway. Reluctantly, Rob started up again. Well, when a 50-story ivory tower appears in downtown Las Vegas with a disco on the top floor, a milk store in the basement, and a racetrack out back, and suddenly there's an Attack Jelly mail order service, don't say I didn't warn you. Nevin, you worry too much. And there we have the end of chapter 9, leading up to... Are we at the last chapter? I think we might be the last chapter, guys. No, 2 chapters left. But the next chapter is fabulous, if my memory serves me well. So we will be back tomorrow for chapter 10, Adventures of the Old Guy. But until then, it is certainly late, and I am certainly tired, and so I'm off to get some sleep. Good night.